Do this with children is a doubly qualified crime, isn't it? Why? Because I'm depriving that child to have a proper formation. That's why you can't give birth to time. You can't be a mother ahead of time. You can't get married early. We need to stop accelerating things. First person talks here about the panic syndrome I had. My name is Lucia. I'm from Goiatuba, inland of Goiás. I follow the Lord very much in the spiritual driving programs. When the Lord went through panic syndrome, He showed me how much we should fight and never give up all. And that's what I have been doing, always following the Lord and living one day at a time. I started to get God, and if it weren't for Him, maybe I wouldn't be here anymore. Big hug. Lucia, thank you very much for your sharing, for the opportunity we have to reflect this issue. Whenever I can, I bring it here. Depression is a very serious disease. It is sometimes considered by many to be fresh and not. We have, and you said, these soul discomforts, they harm us a lot, and it's not easy to deal with them. But it's good for you to realize, I saw that you are very attentive to it, from what you wrote, that you identify that there are things that are poorly resolved in your life. This is the starting point. Sometimes depression is just a consequence of a life that is being poorly lived, and no use taking the medicine only. If you do not move the cause, the medicine will treat the symptom, and you will stay forever depending on that medicine because you didn't act in the cause. And acting on the cause does not depend on medicines. It depends on our will. The medicine is very important to stabilize us, to give us emotional comfort, especially when we live acute pain. But then the doctor himself helps to remove because he passed the acute phase. Then we need to deal with the situation that saddens us. I remember a couple of weeks ago I shared here with you, just as I identified that I was living a certain numbness. Nothing was bothering me. Everything was very good. And I was a great person, because you don't see problem in nothing. But I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I'm not like that. And I realized, very consciously, that this was a result of medicines in me. So I searched my doctor and asked her to be who I was and consciously administer my situation again. Of course. Panic syndrome is very dangerous. It can lead to death if we don't take care of it. So in this acute phase, we really need the medicine. But then, as we go over, we have the right and the need to start recruiting our own resources. Because the big problem, my people, is when we do not face the problem that depresses us. That sometimes it is a life structure that has not been modified. Sometimes it is a job where you are not happy. Sometimes it is a relationship that is doing very badly. And you have not had the courage to establish a new way of living this relationship. Sometimes it is a state of life that is doing you harm. And if we will not live the confrontations of the situations that depress us, that saddens us, the medicine will only postpone the pain. Unfortunately, it is like that. I am very worried about seeing how easily we refer to the medicines and how we have. Because we are very easily being referred to the medicines. We are procrastinating. Postponing to touch those wounds that is necessary for them to be healed. So, Lucia, I am very happy that you are aware and that despite the emotional suffering you live, you are finding our program here. That is, also in my preaching on YouTube. In my words that no longer go for me, that other people take, publicize, that you may be there discovering an extra force, so you can follow, which is anyway, one word, it has the same effect as a tablet sometimes. It causes a well-being within us, it causes hope, and that is very good. And we cannot give up. I have a friend, a family very close to me there in Campina Grande, who gave up last week. He killed himself, drank poison in front of his children. A very sad situation. An emotional maladjustment that already was evolving and suddenly happened. This we know is very common. A lot of people give up on life. I'm not afraid to say, I wanted to give up in July this year. My suffering was so great that I wanted to cease to exist. I couldn't live with that suffering anymore. I was so sharp inside me that I lost the desire to live. But this is temporary. If we take care, we say again, we take the medicine at the right time, look for the professional at the right time. And then you start to refer with occupational therapies, change of habit, change of food. I already said this once. I have a great admiration for Margarita Felix, who is a psychologist from Recife. It has a very interesting job that is the recovery of depressed people through habits and feeding change. A very serious researcher. She's a very serious researcher who surrounded herself with good professionals and was picking up research around the world, was bringing into her institute, in place, her work. And how many people were recovered from depression, healed from depression, changing habits, and changing food? Yes, because depression is also chemical, not only motivational. Sometimes the person is sad. It is not because he has a reason to be sad. It is because he is chemically disorganized. What is the chemistry of our organism? But our food. Our hormonal production, which is all stimulated through habits. We know that physical activity has the power to help regularize our hormonal production. So there are so many things to do. We need to be less lazy in hand with us. Sometimes I get very worried, Jocelyn, that I find very accommodated people in the capsules. So they will depend on this medicine forever. Suddenly, that medicine has no effect. You need to go to a stronger, and it has no end. It is a very serious danger. A very serious danger these days. This accommodation of people not to change what is actually killing. What is actually making suffering. We reflect pertinent questions about the dynamics of gaining and losing in our lives. When do we know we are winning? When do we know we are losing? No, very difficult. It is very difficult for us to know where we lose and where we win. And sometimes just the distance experience, after having spent a while, we will come to the conclusion if we won or lost. Sometimes I think I'm winning today, but suddenly when time goes by, I'm going to look back and I will find out that what I thought I was earning, I was losing. Or what I thought I was losing, after a while, I look and find out that I actually won, is life. And that's what we wrote about this book. How can we have a little more clarity about the dynamics of winning and losing? Because when we have this clarity, we end up living this dynamic better. We start identifying that at the moment when we seem to be losing, in fact, we may be winning. It's like the student who needs to prepare for the entrance exam, right? He loses 1,001 opportunities in the time he is dedicated to his studies. But this is important. Because he is missing the opportunity to go to that party. He's missing the opportunity to be there at the club. But he's gaining the knowledge that will later give you the opportunity to have a good college, to take a good course, and after having the full life, to be able to enjoy. One of the great difficulties, my people, that in life we face is precisely us not knowing how to elect what is truly important in our lives. What really matters right now? Have you ever stopped to pay attention to how much we get lost in issues that are not important? I remember I have a couple, a big one, who are great friends of mine. Despite having a long time that I have not met, they live in San Jose do Rio Preto, which is Graz and Alexei. And when their first daughter was being born, I actually learned that Grazi is pregnant with the second. When he was about to be born the child, they woke up at dawn and Grazi's sick to go to the hospital. And then she, in that confusion, she already with her suitcase ready, feeling the contractions, and nothing of Alex came. She already stopped in the room with her suitcase to go to the hospital and nothing from Alex. Then she enters the room. Alex was extending the bed. Then she says she was so angry. Alex, for the sake of God. Am I almost giving her son here in the middle of the room? And you tidying up the bed? Of course, at that time, I think he was so desperate that he decided to resolve his conflict to extend in bed, right? But you see, at that time, extending the bed was not important. He was messy when he came back and someone would fix it. But sometimes the same thing happens in our lives. A very important thing is about to happen. And instead of devoting ourselves to what is important, we start to pay attention to nonsense. Things that do not make a difference. So, my people, we miss the opportunity to qualify the present moment, right? How many people do we find for life by collecting bitterness because they couldn't choose well at that moment? The book talks about it. It is too important for us to know how to make choices. The choices, they determine whether we will be happy or not. What we chose today, what we are choosing now, the context of the choices is very serious. It's very serious because it is this context that will give us the future. I get very sad and see sometimes young people at 16, 17 years old making the option for cigarettes, making the option for the drug, making the option for alcohol. What will be the future of a boy who at 16, 17 has opted for addictions? Will the future be promising? It is unlikely. Why? We know what the drug does in a child's life, in a person's life. Have you ever seen someone be happy with the drug? Never in my life. I only worked out because I started smoking weed early on. There is no such thing. The drug has only the power to hurt us. There is nothing else. She only hurts the one she chooses. Now I am impressed to see that there are people who still choose. Or the dating, right? It starts to date. See that it doesn't work? That dating is not showing a good future relationship and yet marries that person. How can you want to be happy in the future if you were unable to prepare happiness in the present? And then that's what we're talking about. Sometimes the best way to win is losing on time. You are talking. Look, as much as I will miss you, I need to finish this relationship. Because we are not born to each other. We have very radical incompatibilities. We have a hard time living together. And I don't want to take this hell Tommy life, right? And sometimes the hell of a lifetime is because one could not get rid of the passion of that moment, of that time. And then you choose it wrong. Marries yourself, and then you will live a huge difficulty throughout your life. Or, it does not take the present moment seriously. It does not take seriously the commitment it needs to have. Does not educate the child the way he needs to educate. Does not dispense with him the time he needs. And then how does he do? How will we have a well-educated child, a person who works in life, if the moment people chose for her, they chose wrong? This is so serious, guys, because when I choose to raise my son anyway, I'm depriving this son of finding the balance in youth. When as a mother you give up to establish the rules for your child to understand life as it is. Has rules. Has limits. If we do not set the limits to our children, we are depriving these children after in the future are happy of realizing themselves, because no one in this life can be happy and realize without knowing the rules of life, without knowing how to deal with them. Then you have this generation of everything can. No one can ban anything. No one can surround. No one can say a word more. No one can say a word more. Careful. What we stop doing at the present moment can have very serious consequences in our lives and in the lives of others. Father, I am Catholic. Yes, And whenever something bad, some problem is about to happen to them, I have dreamed a lot from my husband, and in the dream he tells me that my children need me. This situation has bothered me a lot. I would like to know what you think about it. We need to take a distance sometimes when it comes to the dream, what we have with those who have died, the messages we receive from these people, even because our Christian faith does not allow us, within the context of what we'll learn, from what we know, what the church teaches us, We live communion with the saints. So all those who have died participate in this communion. But the church does not believe in this communication with the dead. We respect those who believe this way. So we have a way to interpret often what we call each other's message to us through dreams. Science has evolved a lot to understand dreams. We already have a very interesting arsenal for us to be able to make an analysis of why we dream, why realities come to us through dreams that are nothing less than revelations of the unconscious of the unconscious. What does psychology teach us? That when we sleep, our unconscious becomes more active. It begins to bring out what we consciously cannot say and not even try yet. So often, the dream is a voice of the unconscious telling us what we often say too. You, for example, know that the father was extremely concerned about the children. So it is natural for you to have dreams in which he is worried. These are records that you have. The lady assimilated her husband as a man who always worried about her children. That was the experience. And what a beautiful experience you had. From a husband who was always very present in the lives of the children. I don't know how much involvement you have with these children, but it may be that at some point in your life, you have assimilated it. He worries more than me. So now, with him absent, it is a way you have to tell you what you would like to hear. I say again, we respect those who believe different. Those who believe in this communication. But as we do not believe, we can also understand these dreams as signs that help us think of our posture. What we can't do is allow them to determine our reality. So, because I dreamed, let's say my father died in a moment of much suffering, and from time to time, these dreams occur to me, from my father in agony, as it often happened to me. I'm saying something that really happened to me. My father died, and I saw my father dying. My father had died of a pulmonary embolism, a horrible respiratory failure, and I was next door. So my father's agony was very marked on me. And of course, that record of seeing my father passing on in that agony was recorded in me for many years. So from time to time, I had dreams that my father was agonized, sad, terrified of death. So if I wanted to read different from the one I'm doing, I could say, oh, my father is not in a good place in eternity. He's suffering. It's like that. It's praying for those who have died is one thing. Now we are creating situations for us to be able to. It's like we were undermining our peace, isn't it? Because what can I change in the reality of my father? But unfortunately, because I have records of that death that stayed in my unconscious, when I sleep, while I'm awake, I can even control. I won't think about it now. I will replace that bad image of my father's death with good memories throughout his life. And I do this because my conscious is a tool that helps me. The conscious, this reality that I am now, I'm aware of my moment. So I have all the resources of this consciousness. I'll think wisely. I'll think with rationality. I'll put it, no, the dead do not come back. The dead will not be able to do anything here now, equal to be afraid, who has died from my. You rationalize fear. Why am I afraid if I know they can't go back and do me harm? So this is my conviction. It may not be yours. I'm talking to those who believe just like me. I don't believe if a dead man can tell me something. Now I believe that all the memory of the dead in me can tell me. Why? Because this is an unconscious record. The other does not die fully. It is inside us through the memories, the longing, the love we love. So I will have it. So the moment I sleep, I lose this control. I usually say that at dawn I lose 70% of my intelligence, because sometimes I wake up and think every nonsense, every absurd, that I don't think throughout my day. Why? It seems that I am in fragility, that at night, at dawn, I woke up and at that moment, I cannot take sleep again. So it seems that there is a window inside my intelligence that makes me think absurd nonsense. So white is sizing the problems. They get much bigger than they are. At dawn, the problems get much bigger than they are. It's impressive. That's why we need to manage these moments well. Then fine. When I sleep, I lose this control. So my unconscious throws out all that is stored in IA. So the memories that two have from my father dating in that agony return. And sometimes only time is correcting it from us. Donna Maria. So, be quiet. Ask God to make the unconscious of the lady throw everything out. Everything that was badly resolved or well resolved. That we keep everything. So that gradually, this presence of her husband in the life of the lady becomes natural. Becomes a beautiful longing that will no longer provoke these discomforting. And I know exactly what you are talking about. Because I lived a lot in my life. With the death of my father. And then with the death of my sister. So we lost someone who was very close to us, these records are. I'm facing this now with Cleo's death. Every now and then I have beautiful dreams with her. But from time to time, I have horrible dreams. In that sad experience, I had to be on her last day of life. He dying. And then being there in that inl, recognizing her body. Of course, this is traumatic for us. He's a person you love, is a person who hitherto took care of you, who was your friend, who was your sister, who was your mother. We don't know what the other becomes for us the moment we love. It's big inside us. So today I also have, many times, awake in the middle of the night with dark nightmares with Cleo. But I am aware that it's not Cleo giving me messages, you know? Because I believe in divine generosity, I believe in divine love that has already welcomed Cleo. I really believe in the deep mercy of God. Looking at the life she lived, to the woman she was, I have no doubt that she is already in eternity enjoying the best. Everything my faith promises me, I believe she is receiving there. So I rationalize and think, that's a record of mine. It's not her in me, it's not she wanting to say that to me. No, it's me who I have here now that managing this grief with all the weight of these memories. Because our mistake is in thinking that the other is telling us that, I'm having these dreams with my husband because he's in a very bad place. Or I'm having these dreams with my husband because a very bad thing will happen to my children and he's warning me. Bad things to our children happen even when no one warns us. And what pretense is this? That we can often prevent the lives of happening. What guarantee do we have that we will be alive next week? It is a silly claim. What we need to do is to pray daily and ask God to help us. He clarifies us, so that we have the wisdom of making the best decisions. Decisions that will bring us health, which will bring us life, that will deliver us from the dangers that we need to ask. So the dream, it is a record that belongs to me. It is not the other who is giving me a message through dreams. I say again, you have the right to think differently from me. You have the right to believe different from me. This is how I believe. This is the perspective that Christianity gives me. Catholicism in a special way. Catholicism tells me that. I am telling you what the church teaches us. That dreams, in line with science, are records of the unconscious. They are messages that our unconscious sends us. Okay, you can give this dream a mystical dimension, but it can never allow it to be a determination of the one who died over your life. So the other does not have this possibility of doing this. I believe that when we begin to humanly investigate our phenomena, we tend to better solve things. I am very afraid when human issues are treated supernaturally, being so natural in us. It will always be a danger to treat human issues supernaturally. Why? Because we give up human resources that are favorable to us, including science, psychology, helping us understand the meaning of dreams in our lives. Otherwise, we become a little wizard, right? We will give supernatural meaning to what is not supernatural. We have deep respect for supernatural realities, but we also need to respect natural realities. I think it is a very intelligent way of live and incarnate faith. She stays very easily. She goes up quickly. We need to get to the court daily, where we are the defendant and we are the judge. I need to put myself daily. The day ends. I need to put myself in court. And there I am a defendant and I'm a judge. Because it is the opportunity I have to unravel the lies I told me. To unravel the lies I told others. Those scams of my personality. If I do not take care, turn into the scams, the masks, the hypocrisies. So I daily take me to this court where only honesty is allowed. And here comes the big question. We all need to enter this context of light, illuminate our way of being to find out where we are excessive, where we are cruel, where we kill the other with our word, with our opinion, with our nature, where the other is more than us too, that we need to allow it. Sometimes I see that at least my experience is so good when I find someone who is much better than me in a place, that I know I'm fragile. That I know I don't have that skill, and I find I exact gear. Not in the usefulness of that person, but in full recognition. Her meaning there, from difference, and it's so intriguing because there are people you will know and you live up to. You get angry, irritates, and it pisses to the other's way, because it is the way you would like to be and can't. Your way of being can already what's bad, it's true. The other, for the simple fact that he is by my side, he already questioned me, without saying anything. He, living by my side, being my neighbor, he interrogates me. But we have to lower our weapons. It is inner effort. We can't forgive. Sometimes we carry diseases. We get ugly as we are carrying the grudges. We get bitter, a stiff face that we keep for so many, and that is that story. If I hurt the other, I hurt myself first. And the grudge is being impregnated in our house. Impressive how matter absorbs this, the house of us, the place we live, the place we work. We will deposit it in our wardrobe, and we are really impregnating. Sometimes we enter a house, and you don't know how to say why you don't feel right there. We feel it looks like it has a burden in the air. It is the life that expresses itself in everything we choose. In the details. Right. All the details have what we call the reason for our loves. In the details of my house. In the details in myself. I express the state I am in and what I really love and in which order I love. What place am I going? It is my ability to do my part. To open the drawer and say to that, this drawer is an expression of my soul. There are excesses here. So, when I will make what I keep and insist on keeping, it is as if I were doing a spiritual exercise as well. Oh, Cizio, you said something that is very certain. We are very cruel. And this week I'm specifying who I'm cruel. And I challenge you at home. Who do you exercise your cruelty to? As good as a person is, at some point in life, he discovers a Christ to make cruel. Today I even cried about this fact, when I began to identify that my cruelty is justified. I have all the arguments, as I care about logic, and I am naturally logical, so I need to argue, to regiment all the reasons why I am being cruel. And it has no cruelty. And then there is no room for you to regret, for you to recognize yourself, there is no room for regret. It gets heavy. It gets very heavy. And suddenly, the other ends up being a mirror of what you denies most in yourself. When you begin to realize that the other does you evil when you are being cruel to him, because he reflects failure. A fact that I find it shameful to me. Because it's not good to be cruel. I think it's so liberating when Wayu can tell us, I don't deserve anything. It may seem cruel. So if I can stop thinking I deserve it, my relationship with you is much more free. And suddenly you will surprise me with what I don't think I deserve. It happened. The logic of merit is very cruel in relationships. We go to the relationship with the other by putting a very large burden upon him. I need you. I deserve you to treat me like this. That you do that. You have to do that. You have to. Oh my God. And of course there are many things that we deserve. The question is a human dignity. We will not give up our human dignity. I deserve to be respected all the time. I am talking about the superfluous, which sometimes we are putting in the context of our relationships. This makes reconciliation very difficult with each other. It makes it difficult because forgiveness is that too. It is me to admit that you have no obligation to meet my expectations. And I have to admit, learn, assimilate, and install me in this place. Because sometimes it is said that he forgave and ruminate the story all his life. Whole life? And it is not forgiveness. I think we don't hit as able to forgive the other if we do not fully recognize ourselves able to commit many evil in life. If I do not recognize that I have evil, that I am able to make mistakes a lot, I will not be able to grant this to each other. And trust. 2 weeks ago, I could have a wonderful dialogue with my ex-husband. Let me correct myself. That I cannot say that it is my ex-husband. That my marriage was once null. Declared. So, my old friend. Your friend, right? My friend. That's right. He is a person who did very well, too. It was beautiful. A man who played a role in his very important life. Yes, and it was very humble from his part, because he told me that he needed to live a half-culp. He needed to tell me the things he was realizing only now. Like friends. How long did you stay together, I say? We stayed 3.5 years, married 2.5 years. And did the Unial Declaration come out now? He left in December last year. December last year, very unique. Very unique. Cristovan Basso, living a lot with him now, because we are producing a job that we will release early next year. Then a genius, Christopher, one of the greatest composers of our music, a great conductor. So we were talking about loneliness, he said like this, as I am in need of loneliness, and only now has it grown inside him, he said. But for a man who is married, it is difficult at home and you live this pain to defects. You have to know how to calibrate well, balance your time well, have to have mutual understanding too, because there are meteors that don't need so much solitude, but art needs. Imagine you make your mosaics with the kids running around the house. I need to. I admit that I miss. I like to travel alone sometimes. But as we are proligal, I don't know what we're talking about. Of forgiveness. I was saying that I met Jada, and it was very beautiful. His attitude of recognition and relief in being able to have room for asking for forgiveness. And I forgive. And I also ask. And he also forgive. I think forgiveness is a violent attitude inside. Brave. But it is a cleaning lady. It is a very cleaning attitude. We keep stones if you don't forgive. Because it's you who have to know the difference in expectation and hope. Yeah, two very different concepts. Yeah, expectation you feel the other than he can't carry. And of hope you have to admit that he may not get what you want. And ask yourself. I accept anyway. Interesting, IS. You give up all that context you had, although it was not very conscious in you. That was the natural movement of your wedding. The choices you were making at that time, you exercised in what I think it is more sublime in a person's life, which is to be able to renounce what you have achieved, not of yourself, because it will never give up. But when you are able to look at the success you do, and you say it is not the most important to me, knowing how to get out of the scene, isn't it? To renounce yourself is not to forget who we are. It is renouncing the excesses of what we bring. It is looking at the suffering I have and being able to renounce the excesses it causes me. So I get the part that can teach me. The pedagogical dimension of a fact. The pedagogical dimension of a tragedy. And I'll be back to what I was saying. When you see in these serious religions that start from a love principle of God, respect for man, which I think is the most honest day that every religion needs to live, it is just when it teaches us. And I am very happy to be a Christian. I am very comfortable from the word of Jesus, which teaches me the way of lightness. The way, as the Buddhists say, which is precisely the pursuit of this balance, which allows me to relativize everything life has given me a spiritual because. I never think that, but illusory, right? Because we dress good what is bad. Did you wonder if you would go vain to sleep today with what God has done in your life? I have to sleep naked in this truth. I have to unravel my soul daily and say what God has done to me and serve to this day. This is wonderful from our church, but especially from the invitation of Christ, the examination of conscience, this thing of every day to confess. Look to yourself, and the exercise there is the beginning of our philosophers, who supported everything that people have to get organized internally today. But to remember faithfully, tell yourself again, extremely fidelity. Now Celine Dion has announced that she will stop singing for an indefinite time. My God, just as she did when she had her last child. How much time? Is she about 4 years without singing? 5 years. 5 years. I had the opportunity to listen to it in one of those return shows. When I heard that woman singing all that production, I said, my God. She now canceled over 180 shows. There is no forecast back. Because of her husband, she stopped to take care of her husband. There is no forecast back. This ability to relativize the success it makes, this is very noble, my people. This is too hard. Getting out of the scene, and sometimes we see us attached to a misery that should be ashamed. Right? A woman like this, I can use an inappropriate term. She evangelizes me. She evangelizes me with this attitude of her. To be able to choose her family. Look, my family is more important than all that is great in the eyes of the other. A person who, and be happy and be at peace, and know that it is still on the axis. And if you get out of the scene and be unhappy, it's not getting out of the scene, right? Your soul remains there, because then you would be unhappy and not match the choice. But getting out of the scene and being whole is really a mature soul, right? For me, the great secret of life is acceptance. To accept. What is it to accept? Lower the guard and stop fighting with life, right? I think the spirit of acceptance. I was hitting that word of the Bible a lot. He accepts everything that happens to you, and in pain remains firm, because in the crucible of humiliation that man will learn to be truly honored. And I thought, could Jesus accept everything? But everything is all. How so? A change? To accept is not to be passive in the face of life or things that depend on me, but having a spirit of constant acceptance makes you much more docile to what works and not. You get much more sensitive to the truth, life. Sensitive to beauty, but it is a conscious option, well awake and demanding by humility. It is a small exercise. I say it's exercise because it's not very natural to be humble. No, you have to be very aware of yourself, the arrogance,